Hi, everybody. This is Erika from In the Company of Cards, together with Lena. Here she is, Dr. Lena
Hi.
from Tarot Down Under. Welcome back, everybody. Hi, Lena. Great to see you again.
And
Been
it's good to catch up, Erica.
look
I
at
mean,
my
there
skin
isn't
in blue.
5 minutes in the week, is there, when something doesn't land?
No, I
You-
know, I know, I know. But we both look good, so that's a good thing. Hi, everybody. Nice to see you here. So we have a lot to cover. You know, this is episode 4 of
Oh,
Worldview 360.
360.
And we have expanded, as you may or may not know. If you're new, you might not know, we've expanded it to an hour. And that's so that we can kind of take our time and really delve into some issues without
Mm.
feeling like we're skating over the surface and not digging deep. And there is just so much to dig deep on. So I know that probably um, the issue of the day, I would say, maybe not the week, but the issue of the day was Pam Bondi, the Attorney General, and her testimony this morning. I got up and watched it. I'm in the West Coast, so I had to get up a little earlier than I normally would. And part of me wishes that I had not, that I just watched the recap, but I did watch it from beginning to end.
Oh, good on you.
Yeah. I had heard that the survivors had met with the Republican members of the committee prior, and they were assured that Bondi was going to be asked the hard questions about Epstein.
Mm-hmm.
After they finished that meeting, they were later told by a Republican insider that that was not the case, that in fact they had been given instructions by, who, to not ask her anything about the Epstein situation. And in fact, no Republican did ask her about that situation. So I think that's very interesting. She did not comport herself well, in the sense that, as always, she was speaking to an audience of one. She got shrill throughout the ad hominem attacks, and just clearly she was auditioning to keep her job. I'm just going to put it like that.
Yes. And in the comments, Aaron, the hairstylist, said, "I'm reporting for class, professors." And also makes the comment, she was a total banshee.
She was.
She was this shrieking, belligerent harridan.
Yes. But the thing is that the one thing that she did, I'm happy about this, is she was asked more than once to turn and face the survivors.
Yeah.
She refused. And I'm going to tell you that from what word on the street is, this was not well received by either side. Both the Republican side and the Democratic side thought that that was just wrong, inappropriate. So that's good.
Yeah, and it's like so many things. This administration would do something atrocious and the GOP would turn away, and they'd either justify it through their own fear or whatever, or they'd justify it by going, well, at least we get deals with not taxing the rich or whatever it was. They've endlessly done the tap dance so they could not have to deal with this behaviour.
Right.
But it's appalling behaviour to have people in these positions of power at that really fundamental level of rudeness and arrogance. And I'm really pleased to hear those reports.
Well, and you know what? As awful as it was in plain sight. Again, there's Pluto and Aquarius. Nothing can be hidden now. There's no question but that they want this to go away, to not be discussed. They do not care about these survivors. A lot of us already knew that, but it was just on a world stage for everyone to see. And I think that that was a good thing. So
exactly. And I'm always one for a slogan. And Jezebel says here, the GOP guardians of pedos.
yeah,
And I think they need to be called out over and over using this sort of language.
yep.
It's the other thing I would just encourage everyone to do. Every time we say Epstein, we should educate ourselves to say Epstein and Maxwell. Epstein and Maxwell did this, Epstein and Maxwell, and keep her name in the filth, please.
Yes.
And that's a note to self as well.
Let's talk about her for just a second. So I'll tell you what, I think I've read on this, I think the other day, yesterday maybe, I think she's gotten as good a deal as she's going to get. I really do. The Republicans have already said that we're not letting her out. I mean, no, she shouldn't be let out. So that's good. Of course, the felon is the one who has the key to her cell. She said through her lawyer that she would be happy to testify that he and Bill Clinton are pure as the driven snow and did nothing wrong. Well, she already said that. She already said that to Todd Blanche. That's why she got the nice jail accommodation. I don't think that, and I know she has a lot of information, but so do a lot of other people. So if the felon were to give her clemency or whatever, commute her sentence, and in return, she kept her mouth shut, okay, that's one mouth. But there are many mouths in many countries that could say exactly the same thing that she's saying and will, by the way. So I feel like, this is a terrible expression, but I feel like she's damaged goods. And that it will serve him not at all to change her station, to change
and that's the only reason he won't.
That's the only reason.
Because it wouldn't play well for him.
That's right.
So let's just hope the elastic band has stretched as far as it's going to stretch.
That's right.
But I really hope there's other, particularly after 3 million revelations, how much evidence do you need to put her in again if she ever gets at it?
I'm hoping that when we change administrations, that they just send her back where she was in
originally
Florida. Yeah, originally. Put her back there. That's because you know why? She will have had a taste of relative freedom, and it will be all the worse when she's got to go back to that more restrictive situation.
And I'm not even a supporter of jails. I have spent years of my life talking about justice reform, justice restoration, alternatives to jail. And I must have said, I want him or her in jail more times in these last few years than I would ever have.
Well, there are some
people just actually deserve that thing.
Right. So I think, I hope everybody is paying attention. We cannot take our attention from this situation, no matter how many distractions are thrown our way, because this is wider and deeper than any of us could have ever fathomed. And as I said to you, Lena, before we went before we went live, that this kind of thing has been happening since the beginning of time.
Forever.
We have never been in an internet age before. So it might have bubbled to the surface and then been quickly sort of squished. I don't think we have the ability to not have that happen this time. And we will circle back to this when we get to the end, because I just want to link some things up about how we can keep our consciousness alert and awake and aware instead of doing the thing that we're all wishing we could do, which is go to sleep. I don't know about you, but I have been really exhausted. And I don't know, I just think it's psychological, where I just want my mind to just shut down, and the best way to do that would be sleep. I don't indulge in that way, but I wish I could. And I'm sure everyone is feeling like that. But
absolutely exhausted and frustrated, because the system has let the people down over and over and over. So it's wave upon wave of exhaustion too. But that's why it's so important, and we'll talk more about it later, but to keep yourself nourished and functional.
In every way, right. That's right. So speaking of people, before we leave this particular subject, I just want to call attention to Democrats who will say things like, well, in the locker room, the Republicans will say one thing, but they won't say it in public. And my response is, well, can we have those names, please? Because what are we supposed to think of you listening to this in the locker room? Keeping somebody's confidence.
Two things about that. One, Chris Christie was called out, I think, by Bill Maher this week.
Good.
And he came up with that line, and Bill Maher said, well, who? And Christie balked and came up with Lindsey Graham. Now, but it's a bigger point and a bigger problem. And the Dems should be on the front foot about this all the time, and keep saying, this guy is actually crazy. He is destroying our country, and they know it. They tell us this behind closed doors. They know it. And let them have to defend themselves. That's right.
That's the list of they. That's all I want. I want the list of they. Who are we talking about? So, well, the Clintons
still, even without names, I would prefer names too, obviously.
Yeah.
But even without names, it sort of erodes the Yetis' trust, or Trump's trust in them all too.
That's true.
Even if it's anonymous. If they keep
who are you talking to in the locker room? Right. It'll make him worried about whom he can trust.
Yes. So step one, keep saying it. Step two is names.
Give us names. So let's just stay alert in respect to that. So now let's go to a different country, shall we? I'm just so excited to announce, in case you don't know, I'm just so thrilled that the House has said to the felon, you cannot tax Canada with those tariffs like that. It looks like the Senate may go along with them. And of course, then there could be a veto, but it also could be a veto-proof vote. I suspect it could very well be a veto-proof vote. In other words, they may not come at him on Epstein right away, but there are a lot of backdoor other issues that they can squeeze him on to make the case to the American public and to the felon that they're not happy with him.
Yes, absolutely. But in and of itself, it is lunacy. And I think this is the language that has to be used more. This isn't a different ideological position.
No.
This isn't an economic sort of experiment. This is craziness. When the economies are like that, and then say, we'll show them, like, duh.
It's so embarrassing. So this was a great vote. I think that the Senate will go along. I really do. And so that's a start. So thrilled about that.
And we must celebrate the small wins. And I don't even think that's a small win. I think it's actually a big
win. It's huge.
Because they're getting pushback too from their voters. Even the politically unaware voters do know they're paying more at the grocery store and for their utility bills. So the tariffs aren't working, and they are the Democrats' best bet. Just keep on honing that.
Right. So that's a, we got to take our good news where we can find it.
Absolutely. And how long? It's taken them 12 months to stand up. So bless.
Yeah. I did see an interview with Ketanji Brown Jackson, the Supreme Court justice. She was asked about tariffs sort of writ large, like, what is taking you so long? Like, we thought it was going to be a month ago, then 3 weeks ago, then 2 weeks. And so she gave, this, okay, to be fair, I know that the wheels of justice move slowly and there's a lot to consider, but that's basically the answer that she gave, is that there are things that we have to, consider, and we do argue amongst ourselves. We have to come to some sort of agreement, and that takes time. But, Ketanji, TikTok, I'm just saying, TikTok.
Yes. And you have to feel for the three sensible justices that are left on the Supreme Court. However, not quite good enough.
No, I think she should have. I know they're meant to look like a collegial bunch, but I would have loved for her to say, it is taking a long time. I'm really frustrated too. But she's, of course,
and push back on her mob over there. Yes, exactly. But
so now Iran. You wanted to talk about Iran.
Yes, just for a minute here. Now, we know from various news sources that the US is poised at any point, at any day, to bomb Iran again. The felon himself has been boasting about the big, beautiful ships that have been sent there in readiness to back up the airstrikes. Right? Now, I won't go on about the embargo and everything else. The point that's, I think, very relevant right now is Iran is the 6th biggest oil producer in the world. They have to protect that revenue. Even the corrupt theocratic regime have to protect that revenue. And so the Iran-backed militias, which are like Hezbollah and Hamas and stuff, have had 2 months lead time. If the US strikes Iran again, it's going to have a reaction.
Right.
And that reaction puts serving members at risk. It could mean the Straits of Hormuz are closed again, because that's one of the few things that they can actually do in that region. Because remember, from geography, straits are very narrow, therefore, as opposed to the ocean.
Right.
So it's highly, highly volatile space. And that could impact oil to the United States and beyond.
Right.
So they're doing it over here, not thinking about plan B, not thinking about repercussions, just, hog's breath's wet dream, ping, ping. And I'm just saying, be prepared. I think that this and other issues could lead to problems with oil supply.
Right. I don't disagree. Because there
I'm
is
just planting the seeds for people, take any necessary precautions.
Right.
Stocking up.
It's good to be aware. Wait a minute. So speaking of, now I want to go off the earth for a minute to talk about the fact that I live in hope that the eclipse on the 17th is going to do something for somebody, if you know what I mean. I don't know if it's a lunar eclipse, a solar eclipse. I just know it's an eclipse. I know that the felon was born under an eclipse. And I know that when you're born under an eclipse and then you live your life and now you're a certain age and now an eclipse comes, that's not good.
Well, it's very powerful, isn't it? It's like a concentration of power. I think it's a solar eclipse, but I'm not an astrologer. Yeah, the point being, very intensifying energy. And given everything that's going on,
the energy is intensifying. Yes. And I'm telling you that it's the 17th, but apparently it will extend several weeks past the 17th.
Absolutely.
You wake up on the 17th and you learn that it's not quite time to pop the champagne. Don't take it out of the refrigerator. Keep it there. Because,
but make sure you've bought an extra bottle.
Yes.
It will happen sometime.
Listen, I want a bottle that I can do that thing where you pop it and it sprays all over, and then the other
Formula One thing.
Yeah, the other one will drink. But yeah, so eclipses take away. Okay, so take him away.
And I think we've got so many vulnerable leaders. At the moment. So Keir Starmer in the UK is hanging on by his last fingernail. Putin's in trouble because he told his people 3 years ago they were fighting the Nazis in Ukraine. It wasn't a war.
Right.
The Ayatollah in Iran is, the last legs of that regime. And the Yeti, as I call him out of habit, the felon. So a lot of big leadership moments, I think, are genuinely close now, just the sheer force of everything. Because don't you feel everything is accelerating and intensifying?
Yes, everybody is feeling
you guys all feel it.
No, I'm sure. I mean, I hear it all the time from viewers that they're feeling the shift. Okay, I want to go to, we didn't talk about this before, but you brought him up. Keir Starmer. Okay, let me just say this. I don't know if I said this on our program. I may have, where I said, world, you all need to help us out, because I know we like to think that we set the example, but you all need to set us an example. We're the young ones here, and we need somebody to set us an example. And Europe has set us a great example. You've got Spain, and you've got France, and you've got who else?
Poland is also.
Is it Lithuania? Poland, right? So they're all going after Elon, which I think is
Isn't
great.
It delicious?
It's a beautiful thing. It's just a beautiful thing. Now, I wanted to say a word about Keir Starmer, because again, he's done what I think a good leader should do, which is, mea culpa, I screwed up. Now that guy got fired, the one who vetted
Mendelsohn,
right? Mendelsohn got fired because he didn't do a good vetting job, or maybe he did do a good vetting job. Could have all been purposeful.
Well, he gave information to Epstein that made Epstein make more money.
There you go. Okay, so one hand
here we go. You can't get far from it,
right? But Keir Starmer understands what was it? Harry Truman understood, which was that he had a sign on his desk that said, "The buck stops here."
Yeah.
The felon, of course, doesn't understand that.
No,
but you're right. Keir Starmer could go down as a result. And I also heard that the Charles and William have said that they will cooperate with the police in whatever they want to do with Andrew. I think that's huge.
It is massive. This is the royal family. I'm an anti-monarchist, right? But even I will concede this is massive.
It really is. And this is Europe setting us an example for how you maybe do it late, God knows, but you do the right thing when there's no other place to go.
Exactly. And France has raided the offices of Elon Musk on the grounds of grok, because if you have grok, you can make grok do things. And of course, what do people do? Inappropriate, non-consensual, sexual images.
Right. And did you hear who apologized for it?
No.
Grok apologized.
Oh, that's hilarious and inadequate. Oh, that's hilarious. So grok really feels bad.
Yeah. Grok feels bad. You know what? any port in a storm. I think it's great. They got him on Grok. Good.
Exactly. And I think it was exactly that. We could do it on this, and this, but this is something that people will get and understand. And already because of that, and then Elon, because I don't think it's beyond the bounds to say a drug addicted moron, he came out at some point and actually said, yeah, Grok will make heaps of money through porn. He actually said it out of his fetid lips. Ooh. So then Malaysia cancelled them. That's a lot of millions of people. And I think possibly Thailand. There was one other Asian country who actually banned Grok.
Good.
So it can be done.
Can be done.
But we've always got to be careful with censorship. But this is what happens when you don't have censorship.
Right. So I'm thrilled about that. So now let's go to where you are in Australia. So you had a visitor, I gather, from Israel.
Okay, I'll just bring people quickly up to speed with that. So everyone in the world saw the horrific shooting at Bondi Beach, targeting the Jewish community. Now, I don't think Bondi will ever quite recover from it. It was so traumatic for everyone. It was a Muslim man who actually, unarmed himself, brought down one of the shooters.
Right. I saw that, which is great.
Now, Isaac Herzog, who's the Prime Minister of Israel, came to Australia. He might even still be here in the last few days, but these people usually fly in, fly out. The problem was that images of Herzog from 2023, where he was signing a bomb destined for Gaza.
Oh, I missed that part.
Okay, this is a really critical part of the overall story. Now, that was 2.5 years ago. However, that image resurfaced big time as he arrived. Now, every week or every few weeks in Sydney and Melbourne, there are pro-Palestinian marches. They're usually peaceful. The only thing is people, have the roads closed for 2 hours and have to drive around or whatever. There's been very few arrests. So because of the heightened tension, one, the shooting, B, Herzog, the government, which is a conservative state government, decided to up the ante and give police more powers.
Is this Albanese?
No, he's our Prime Minister. This is at state level.
A state,
like the equivalent of a governor. So they're enormously powerful. Every state has a premier. And so what happened was it was a bigger rally than before, and also the police behaved worse than they've behaved before. Normally they've done quite a good job of, just directing people around here and stopping things going from A to B or whatever. They haven't been that intrusive. I'll now get emails from friends who are protesters, but generally speaking, not too bad. They amped it up. And so they were capsicum spraying people. There's images of 5 cops on one old guy. Like, what?
How American? How American?
Exactly. Right. This is what happens when you go for the authoritarian approach. Instead of just simply having many more police in the government, I'm all for clamping down on hate speech, for both in the sense of mosques and Islamic schools are threatened with bomb threats really regularly, not from the Jewish community or Israelis, but from those who hate Muslims. And we all remember the Islamophobia after 9/11.
Right.
So my point is hate speech hate speech, and the police should be doing a better job instead of doing this to go lateral, communicate with people during the week, not just in the confrontational zone. And normally we're sort of light years ahead compared with ICE. But this was a mini ICE moment. It was an ice cube, let's call it. And it wasn't
so
pretty.
an ice cube. And the reason I brought up Albanese was that I had read somewhere that there was concern that it would have a trickle up reaction and affect him. I mean, I know, I think he's popular, right? And
well, he's moderately popular, but also the opposition is currently cannibalizing itself. Okay, so he's secure politically now.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
So I don't think it will have that effect. It'd be front of house for him as we speak. You know, he's got to juggle the different communities and the police and the public expectations and all of that. But it wasn't a good development, is the takeaway.
Why do you think that they felt like they had that kind of license in this moment?
Because they were told during the week that they had greater powers. This is what happens when you give people. So they said, yeah, you have more powers to search, you have more powers to do crowd control, more power. But they only had 5 days to work out what that would look like. And so it went into this really primitive space.
Right.
Yeah. Instead of saying, okay, we're going to have 8 weeks training now for all the riot cops and how they deal with it and ordinary police.
Well, that's what happened with ICE.
Went like that.
Yeah, but that's what happened with ICE. Not that they were ever wonderful, but they had months of training, and then that was truncated into just a few weeks. And what they decided to eliminate, like the portion of the training, is how to diffuse situations.
Yes, and American police aren't well trained before this ICE thing in terms of de-escalation, right?
No.
And so we've got this ironic situation just this last few days where someone who's been an ICE person for 5 years or something was really critical of what is happening in Minnesota, saying, no, just no, and he said, I've seen footage of guys on surveillance drinking alcohol. I've seen footage of X, Y, and Z, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's coming from older, who went through the older training and stuff.
Well,
so that's a bit of a catch up on the Australian story of this week.
So now, one of the things that we thought I wanted to just give a PSA, which is to remind people about the nature of what Lena and I are trying to do here. So, as you know, Lena does political tarot on her channel, Tarot Down Under. I do political Lenormand on my channel. And so that's where we do cards, and that's where we sort of catch people up on things. But we are not, either in our individual spaces nor here, we're not the news. So it's really important that that each citizen of whatever country do your due diligence, look for news sources that are accurate and dependable. And of course, 9 times out of 10, at least in this country, that will not be legacy media. Just saying.
That's right. But there's lots of choice now that there wasn't 5 years ago.
Tons of choice. There's tons of choice out there now, and it's wonderful. And but what we do, we are doing commentary. This is political commentary. So we keep abreast of what's going on. We maybe are talking about issues here and there about which you have no clue, but we can give you a little bit of a hint of what's going on, and then you can do your due diligence. But a lot of what we talk about, obviously, are things that you will have heard about.
Mm.
We're doing commentary, which means that we are giving our considered, mature, Australian American perspectives on various issues. So just so you know, that's what we're doing here. I saw somebody that was said that they were related to Al Capone, and that to remember that. Yeah, here it is. Oh no, they weren't related. My great grandfather worked for Al Capone. Nothing nefarious, of course not. And remember that Capone got because of taxes.
Yeah.
So, which is sort of speaking to what the French are doing with Elon and Grok.
Yes, exactly.
Which I thought was really
yes, it's a very good point.
Yeah. I wanted to talk about, so we have two sort of biggish topics that we want to talk about in our remaining half hour. And one of them is to do with women. And when we say women, we are talking about women who really are disenfranchised, disappeared, used and abused. And I know, Lena, you were the one who actually brought the topic up. So do you want to tell us what you were thinking about that?
Even in Australia, we've heard about a really high number of Native American women and Native Canadian women who just disappear in certain areas more than others. And for decades.
Right.
For decades, this has been going on. So this is bigger than, them being picked up hitchhiking and a terrible ending or something. It has to have had, I would suggest, police at best turning a blind eye, at worst possibly being part of it, for it to have gone on for so long.
Well, so it makes you wonder, right? Doesn't it? Like when we think about the whole Epstein situation, you're right. It's more than just a random, serial killer out there. Because I mean, how many of them are there? Well, hopefully not that many. Over generations. What's this about?
And it's the normalization of it meets, particularly with race, it meets no one being interested in finding those women.
Mm-hmm.
Look at the effort that's gone into the woman who's allegedly kidnapped at the moment.
So look at
the volume of coverage that has got compared with 100 Native Americans who are missing, or 1,000 or 10,000, right? So here we go. But just today, I heard, probably happened a few days ago, in Texas about the father who shot his daughter.
I saw that. Mm-hmm.
Okay, she was 23, anti-gun, and probably critical of MAGA or Trump or something. He shot his daughter dead. Now, that is appalling, horrifying. You think peak toxicity, peak everything. No, it's been ruled an accident. Mm-hmm. He isn't being charged with murder.
Right.
That is when it becomes systemic. One is emotional meets opportunity because of gun culture, meets bad mood, or meets alcohol, or it's still within the individual and the household. But when it gets ruled as an accident, and the defense was, I was only pointing the gun at her chest.
Right.
And it just went up. So I think that's an important microcosm of this toxicity, because then the system kicked in, just like it did with Epstein, just like it's done for hundreds and hundreds of years, thousands.
Well, right. And, I was talking to my partner about this today. I said, there are bad people who do bad deeds. We can all agree to that. But I'm starting to think, and this is kind of what we thought we would end with, and we have plenty of time to talk about it. I'm starting to think that part of the whole plan is to make us, the regular people in the world, complicit Well, nobody wants to think that they're complicit.
Yeah.
Because, oh, I can't be complicit with that. But, you know, silence is
Consent. Silence is
yes,
consent is the phrase,
consent.
yes.
Silence is consent.
And I've just remembered a quote too from an Auschwitz survivor who said, "It wasn't Hitler or Goebbels who incarcerated me and killed my family. It was the neighbor and the milkman
Right.
and the grocery shop who didn't speak up."
Right. And they say that in that war and in many wars, there are lots of people whose lives actually don't change very much. They go about their business. They open their stores. They sell their produce. They interact with the whatever. They just their day-to-day lives are not so much changed. But there are these little things where if they tell you you can't sell to whoever, well, I guess you can't sell to whoever. If they say report X if you see X, then you report because you're a good citizen. There are many, many ways that we are complicit. And I think in terms of the women and the disappearance of women, there seems to be sort of this tacit agreement that's you just said it, that there are certain women who are expendable. One of the things I've found very interesting about the Epstein situation is that there are maybe 2 Black women. I've seen only one, so I'm going to just double it and say 2 because Black women were not to his taste, nor the taste of his clientele. We'll just say that. So on the one hand, well, and again, the younger, the better. The younger, the more compliant, the better. And there is, I mean, white women are trained to be agreeable. I'm just going to put it like that.
That's a good word.
Agreeable. And so, and Black girls, not so much. I'm just saying, aside from the fact that we weren't his taste. But I think that you can dismiss little girls because, they're not important. I do want to say there is a Black woman connection, though, to this whole thing, which has to do with Nigeria. So Bill Gates, we know, has done a lot of work. Well, he was a friend of Epstein's, but anyway, a lot of work on vaccination in Africa.
Yes, yeah.
And a lot of the communication, apparently, between Epstein and Gates,
Maxwell. Sorry, go on.
Yeah, stick her in there. Maxwell has to do with Nigerian women. Now, why would that? Well, we know that Epstein was not just a pedophile, but he's a eugenicist and very interested in the science of it all. And he noted or made a case for the fact that his theory was that Nigerian women specifically are good breeders, meaning the way that their lumbar spines are and the width of hips. He's a eugenicist, so and that so that they would be good carriers. Now, this isn't to say that he was trying to create a Black slave race by impregnating Black women. It's to say that the plan was, in response to the fact that white women birth rate is decreasing. And of course, they're worried about, being
replacement theory.
Yeah. Replacement theory, yeah. So the idea was that you would, that these Nigerian women would carry a white child to term and then bear it. So they're like, receptacles. And he had this whole plan of what he was going to do with Nigerian women. And maybe they got paid, maybe they didn't get paid, but nevertheless, come on, what are you doing?
Yes. Yes. Before we double back into the eugenics,
Yeah.
because that's really important too, in the comments, this woman says, I am a Native woman, thank you for bringing up the issue, who lives near the Canadian border in Minnesota. To date, there are about 4,200 missing.
You see what I'm saying? That's a lot of people. And the fact that this is not front page, the fact that we are not screaming in the streets over this, part of it is the fact that we didn't know, let's just say, the numbers, right? And number two, now that we know, are we going to do anything about it? This is the thing.
Yep. And start lobbying, because I think this is part of what the Epstein horror is all about when we go big picture.
Yes.
It's about Pluto bringing up the worst and the darkest and other absolute horror stories will be unveiled in this. And this is the time for not just perpetrators to be brought to account. That would be fantastic, but even if a percentage, it'd be something. But more importantly, it's the psychology behind how you create people who think this is all right.
Right. That's right. That's right. And so the thing we wanted to talk about, I thought you put it really well. So Lena proposed that we talk about why Americans have such a hard time talking about hard things. And of course, I'm qualifying that by saying white Americans, because I don't think that, well, I'm Black. That's all. I mean, that's my experience. I think Black people have a much less difficult time, I'm just going to say, talking about hard things. But I think that white Americans, especially women, are trained to make peace, be nice, be agreeable, not rock the boat, don't talk about it. And how do we know? What's the quintessential example that people always give? Like your racist uncle at Thanksgiving comes and spews whatever. Does it occur to anybody that maybe you shouldn't issue the invitation? Or, okay, it's Thanksgiving, you want to invite him. Okay, does it not occur to anybody to call him on his nonsense? But no, we want to keep everything nice. Now, I'm going to argue that nice is good. Nice, that's fine. But I think it has a way more insidious origin. And this is just as an American. This country was built on blood and slavery for the sake of money. But that sounds gross. Like, would you want to pledge allegiance to that? I pledge allegiance to blood, slavery, and money. That's not good. So you make it nice.
But I think it all comes together. The racism, the sexism, and class all come into the same vehicle, because the American narrative that every child seems to get inculcated from the crib, this is the best country in the world.
And it's even a romantic story. It's romantic.
Yeah.
It's heroic.
And freedom. It's like Americans are amazed any other country would be free. It's like, it's so strong in the culture. So it doesn't matter how unfree you are. And I use the example of women. I think it was in Michael Moore's documentary Sicko. Do you remember years ago the American non-health system?
Right.
And like women in the Appalachians nursing their dying babies going, I don't want socialist health care.
Right.
You know, like, right? And this is how deep it runs in the American psyche. We could then talk endlessly how it manifests differently in different cultural groups, but that's the dominant thing.
Right,
Yeah.
right, right.
Yeah.
It's psychotic. It's psychotic. And what I
Yeah,
think
it's
is
psychotic.
very interesting to watch is people waking up to this and feeling rage. Like if you look at, go to Instagram, there are a lot of women on there who are just realizing, wait a minute, this isn't good. This isn't working for me. That this line that I've been told of how things really are, this doesn't work. And so I'm over here, drinking my water, minding my business, waiting to see what happens next. What I hope will happen is that this will increase, this will grow, and that there will be this huge eruption. Because this is patriarchy we're talking about. And people misunderstand. They think that the opposite of patriarchy, if it's matriarchy, well, that's not fair because then women are on top. That's not what matriarchy is.
And the reason it's different is because patriarchy is hierarchical.
Right.
You can be a rich white guy, middle or a poor white guy. That's one hierarchy. Then we get into racial hierarchies that are oppressed by all those groups and so on. But my point was, matriarchal societies, and there have been many of them, we should talk about them in future weeks, organize concentrically, not hierarchically. It's a fundamental different anthropological way of organizing. Is everyone looked after? Then we can look after some more, and it's circular, not up and down with someone on the bottom.
Exactly. And so once I think people see the merit in that and the inherent fairness of it, I don't know. I think there could be some changes. And what has to happen, obviously, is that simultaneously, the way things are has to appear the way it is, which is so unfair, so ugly, so
grotesque for the majority. It's not as though we're going, there's 10% of people here who are having a really hard time. No.
Right.
So to keep the majority in line, first of all, you've got to delude them systemically so they believe something else is happening, and then you pit them against each other. This is just standard, right? And that's exactly what's happening. And where it's hitting the wall is Trump saying, the golden age is here. The economy's booming. This is where the disconnect will have to fall over.
That's right.
He could say Mexicans are, drug pushers and rapists, and you'll get a certain percentage of people who go, oh, yeah, and whatever. You can use all the racist tropes you like in the world. But there comes a point when you say, as yet another person in your family has been laid off and your regional hospital is closed and your nephew has died in the night because they couldn't afford an asthma medication.
Right.
That it hits people in the face, between the eyes. They're starting to get it.
They're starting to get it. I mean, used to be if somebody was a billionaire, ooh, they're a billionaire. Now people are thinking like the singer Billie Eilish, where she said, if you're a billionaire, you have to ask yourself this question. Why are you a billionaire? Why are you a billionaire?
Right. And I think it was Balzac who said, behind every great fortune, there's a great crime.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
Now,
And we're seeing that on a huge scale with this Epstein situation.
Exactly. But just the Trump family is absolutely classic, with, of course, the exception of Mary Trump. The Trump family. So Fred, Trump's father, who gave him $450 million back when that was massive.
A lot of money, yeah.
Where did his money come from? Well, we all know the story, but basically he got huge government grants for subsidized housing. He made the profit of that. Where did he learn this technique? From his father, Trump's grandfather, who ran brothels on the Yukon.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It,
Yeah.
that's just how it is.
Yeah. So,
And the
so,
point of billionaires, and I think this is important
mhm,
because we're all living in capitalist societies. I would argue we're at peak capitalism. Something's got to give. But anyway, capitalist societies. Now, the Nordic model, which is someone can become a millionaire. They're not that keen on billionaires, but certainly million. But the difference is you have to pay your workers well. You have to give them 4 weeks and in some cases 6 weeks paid annual leave. And you have to source your supplies ethically. After that, that's profit. I
mhm,
can live with that. Not
right.
a problem. But they screw the workers to the ground, and it's profit from the first worn out worker who can barely get their tired legs through the door
That's right.
after an inhumane shift.
Right. Well, you know what? When Americans start to do a cost benefit analysis where
Yeah, there
being
you go.
nice is over here and being free is over here. I don't know. I don't know. Nice might lose some capital, and I think it probably should. I'm not
Mm,
saying people shouldn't be civil. I'm not saying people shouldn't be polite. But when I say nice, it's this, again, this reticence to talk about hard things, this
yeah.
refusal to see, this sort of cultivated blindness
Mm.
that allows really evil things to go on right under our noses.
And when it's cemented in with this Old Testament religiosity as
Right,
a veil,
right.
for that, to keep women in line. And there's a wonderful comment here from Chuck Hepner in the comments. When our mothers, wives, sisters, and daughters are considered both different and inferior in the eyes of God we worship, this belief tends to permeate society and
Right,
everyone suffers.
right,
And that's
right.
it. That's exactly it. And I would recommend to people a young woman, I think her channel's called Life Take Two, and she's an ex-Mormon. I think I've sent you a link
Mhm.
privately. Okay. And she deconstructs from the inside how she was taught from naught to be a trad wife and a white supremacist.
Right.
Was built in to the religious thing. It was just the natural order.
Right. Well, I'll tell you something.
Yeah.
This is why we're speaking of Pluto and Aquarius and things falling apart. One of the other things you might want to keep your eye on, everybody, is Erica Kirk's um, uh, downfall,
Oh, I'm
because
itching for it.
she's going down in a very, very, very big way, and she is preaching that trad wife, you know, Christian nationalist message.
Well, she's obviously got nannies up the wazoo, so she can trot around the country. You know what I mean?
Well,
Like,
yeah, I mean, I
this
don't
is
even
where
know.
class comes in too.
There's a lot going on with her. I don't even know. Well, they apparently Charlie was thought that she had cheated on him and wanted a paternity test on the children,
Oh,
and
how fascinating.
took her out of the will and
Oh,
left the
it
money
gets
to the
better.
children. And the money's left to the children, but she is contesting that will. That's interesting that she would contest the will when the money's
Contesting the
supposed to,
will.
yeah.
Oh my God, how
There's a lot
fascinating.
going on there.
But fortunately for everyone, it's on her face. You know, with most people, unless they're very skillful,
Yeah,
their inner selves are reflected in their face. And
yeah.
she's a hard number.
It's in the
With
eyes.
the
It's in the
eyes,
eyes.
the Nazi eyes, aren't they?
I know. I don't know why she has to be named Erica, but I'll let that go.
No, we forget that.
Well, you know what? We are at the hour mark. You know, I know
Fun.
we never run out of things to talk about. But we
And
hope
guys,
that
remind us next week too. We have much more to talk about why Americans find it difficult to have the hard conversations.
yes, maybe
So
we'll
we've
start with
only
that next time.
touched it. Yes.
Mhm. We will start with that next week. But thank you all for watching. We really are grateful. Like, share, subscribe to both our channels. Lena, remember, is Tarot Down Under, and I'm in the Company of Cards.
Yes.
And we will be here same time next week, right?
And a shout out to, there's a woman in Australia, I think it was early on, I think you're in South Australia, and she just said, I came in from the paddocks and caught you guys. So
terrific. Well, you can talk to us again next week. We'd love to have you. All right, everybody, take care. We'll see you soon.
Ciao.